Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we're talking about Deku was reincarnated into Minecraft. So, before we actually start off like the explanation about last episode, like Happy New Year-ish. I mean, it's still not like New Year's yet, but I guess it's like a Happy New Year's to you, I guess, if it's already done now. Currently, it's going to be like pretty loud in this episode because like many like every single one of my neighbors are shooting out fireworks, so please ignore that and let's just talk about like what happened last episode. So in the last video, like, Izuku was teleported to heaven where he met God said that he wants to bring Izuku to another world so he can, fix it. But Izuku refused, thinking that, well, it's his fault for turning him into a quirkless person, or making him a quirkless person. But he insisted, and so Izuku reluctantly, re- reluctantly, just wait for a second, reluctantly decide to do it. And so Izuku decides to go to that world, where Izuku faced some troubles. Like, for example, Izuku got attacked by several mobs and also got spotted by by the Illager clan, which, if you don't know, they're basically like the opposites of like the villagers, if you didn't realize. And so after doing that, Izuku made a home in a nearby field, or at least in the fields. Basically, it's like a grassy field that's not really filled with trees or anything like that. It's just a vast field. And so Izuku made a house there and goes to sleep. So that's basically a simple explanation about last episode. And so let's talk about what happens next. So Izuku wakes up to the sound of knocking on his door. As Izuku just says this, who the hell is knocking on my door? Sure, I didn't remember anybody being near here. Wait a minute. There is zombies. Wait a minute. As Izuku looks through a peephole that he made on his door and sees zombies trying to get in, as Izuku just says this. Welp. As Izuku grabs the golden sword that he gotten from the piglin, which, if you didn't realize, it's a piglin zombie. Or was it called a zombie piglin? I can't remember the name. Anyway, so Izuku opens the door and sees the zombies start charging in at him. Izuku just stabs one of them right in the chest as Izuku swings back around and slices the other one's head off. It's still late at night, by the way, as Izuku just says this. I never did any fighting back in my old life. How am I this good? As Izuku just chalked it up to, like, God giving him another gift. As Izuku just says this. Anyway. As Izuku doesn't know the time, but it's probably maybe early morning or something. So, Izuku decides to try and find some, another type of food source. And so, Izuku packs all of his things, and also basically just, uses all of the wood of his house, and goes on another adventure. And so, after getting all of the wood from his house, aka just, tearing down his house, he starts leaving. So, and by the way, in this world, you can use chests similarly in-game to, shulker boxes, so, yeah. Meep. So, Izuku is using, his leftover chest to, put all of his stuff in. And so, Izuku started moving. So, while moving on this trail, which Izuku thinks is probably like a nearby town or something, or like a nearby village, Izuku decides to go, there. So, while he's going on this, path, Izuku sees the horde of bandits again, but this time, they are many. As Izuku thinks, so, what are these bandits doing here? As Izuku overhears that they are, well, a certain type of people. Apparently, they were exiled because they use dark magic and also worship a certain god, which I'm not going to tell you the name of it, but let's just say this god is definitely not favorable to, to aka Izuku, the god who literally um, you know, turned like Izuku, or should I say like teleported Izuku here. Sorry about that. So, after overhearing this, they said that there are several rankings. There are several rankings to their like clan. Apparently, Izuku already knows kind of, like not really knows their names, but kind of sounds familiar to him. Apparently, those rankings are the lower level class, which are just called. Wait for a second. Are called illagers, which are basically the axe wielding guys. Then there's pillagers, which are the cross wielding, like the crossbow wielding, like soldiers, the ones that look like bandits. Then there's the evokers, which are basically like wizards of that certain place. And then there's the illusionists, which are basically like they're basically what they say. They're illusioners. They're able to use a bow and arrow, but also create clones. And not only that, they're also quite powerful. And then there's the, rideable mount, or their only rideable mount, known as the Ravager, which is basically a creature which, apparently, during their, whole, speech, apparently, the Ravagers are actually transformed villagers, which they used as, hostages. But if the villagers don't pay, they will turn them into Ravagers, which Izuku got shocked after hearing this. And then there's their final ranking, which is the leader or chief, which is signified by a banner. This banner is in the shape of their leader's face. Kind of. It looks stylized. And so they raise all of their weapons as they say this. Wait for a second. For our great and powerful leader, Caesar! As they raise all of their weapons, as Izuku just says this. So, their leader is named Caesar. As Izuku sees some members of that group, specifically wait for a second, a pillager, a illager, and evoker. They're all alone, and Izuku decides to attack them. And so, Izuku just assassinates them using both his, stone sword and his, wait for a second, golden sword, which he gotten from the, from that, wait for a second again, sorry, I just which he gotten from that zombie pig. So, after killing all three of them, Izuku gets all of their stuff. And so, Izuku started running away. So, let's go to a different perspective. So, one of the illagers, which was a girl in this universe, when she decides to go there and sees her friends just all dead, she tells everybody about it, as they think it's probably from a traitor, which they prosecute a weaker leveled, illager, which they killed in front of everybody, like an Aztec, blood sacrifice, or at least somewhat similar to that. As the leader, or the, leader of, the group, starts spraying the blood all over his face. As they say this is what happens to traitors. They die. Now for our fallen brethren. As they bury them in rocks. Almost like a regular old burial. So let's go back to Izuku. After Izuku stole all of their stuff, Izuku decides to wear them. Izuku found this, this black, almost dark armor, like this crimson red armor, which Izuku wore. Izuku thought it was pretty, form-fitting, almost exactly to his size. But there is no actual helmet, but instead it's like a face mask, which has a respirator. And so Izuku decides to wear it. And every time when he breathes in and out, it causes a cloud of red smoke to appear, which Izuku thought it was pretty cool. Izuku got in the clothes of that, priestess, and decides to wear it as like a jacket. For the inner shirt, it's basically from the village. For the pants, well, it's from the illager as well. Izuku also gotten these black tipped arrows, which Izuku definitely doesn't know what the material is, but it's probably from a mysterious type of metal. There's like a few arrows in there, so Izuku decides to keep it. So Izuku got in the black axe, which was given to this illager, a low-ranking member, which when Izuku tried the black axe, it cut through the wood, like the wood of the tree, pretty much like butter. Izuku was, well, impressed with this axe. So Izuku decides to throw away both his old swords and axe and decides to use it as his main weapon now. And so Izuku puts it on, well, his back, like the back of his waist. And for the item which he gotten, which was a book? Not really a book, it's more like a weird looking book slash amulet. Izuku decides to wear it around his neck, like under his shirt. Not really shirt, more like his undershirt. Where his armor, like under his armor, kind of. Where when Izuku decides to do a chant in the book, like the book said there was like a chant there, and Izuku does it, a creatures appear. They look like fairies somewhat, but except they have thin red veins and sadistic smiles, and they laughed like creepy ass clowns, wielding sharp knives. As Izuku does another chant, which creates these large, almost fly-like trap creatures which come out of the ground and snap onto on a nearby sheep, which kills them in an instant, just literally snapping them in half. When Izuku saw this, Izuku was impressed. So, after doing that, Izuku decides to go to a nearby river so he can see his brand new, look. And so, Izuku looks like this. So, after looking at his brand new, look, Izuku thought it was pretty good. Izuku decides to, take off the armor for now, as Izuku looks into the river and sees his old scars. His scars when he got bullied by Bakugo and many of the other kids, after they learned that he was quirkless. During that time, he started, cutting himself. Like this. Yeah, it's not really good scarring. Really good to me. It just... And, by the way, the actual art made for this, I'm really proud of this art. It was it was the longest for me to do. Not really the longest. The actual longest is for my other what if after this. The third what if, which is what if I was in My Hero Academia, which was the longest because I had to finish 3 different art for that. And I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but let's just say it's cool, but also pretty hard for me to do it, replicate it again. So yeah. So after Izuku checks out his brand new look, Izuku thought he was pretty cool, and so Izuku puts his crossbows, because Izuku saw in the box, or at least after getting all of their stuff, Izuku saw that the guy has 2 crossbows, and so Izuku picked him up. So Izuku puts his crossbows near his back, and for his axe, Izuku puts it on a holster over here. So, Izuku started moving on and starts going through another part of this brand new world. So, while Izuku is moving and trekking through this land, Izuku came around to a large, almost desert type area, which Izuku thought it was weird because it was near a biome that's like filled with water and wait for a second. Near a biome that's filled with life. But now, when they got, or at least when he got there to that desert area, it looks devoid of life. And so Izuku decides to go there so he can find a brand new area where he can, well, permanently stay. So, Izuku was trekking through the sand. The heat from that area was unbearable to him, especially with his armor. His armor is pretty hot in itself. So, when Izuku was walking through the desert, Izuku came across something weird. There seemed to be a large temple in front of him. Izuku goes in, and the area seems to be pretty cold, unlike the hot outside, almost like it had, well, an AC. So, Izuku decides to look around. The place was completely empty, until he gets up top, where Izuku gets scorched by the sun again. But he was not alone. Izuku gets tackled from behind, and sees in front of him a zombie. But not a typical zombie. She seemed different. This zombie seems to be different. Or she's completely different. Unlike the other zombies were mindless. But unlike, well, them, or her in this case, she's completely able to talk. As she says this, hello. So, you're human. Nice to meet you. You can just call me, wait for a second, just let me pick. You can call me Olga. As Izuku just says this. Hello, Miss Olga. You can call me Izuku Midoriya. As she says this. What a weird name. Are you from a foreign country? As Izuku just says this. I guess you can say that. So, Olga, you're a zombie, right? As she says this. Yeah, but I'm not like your typical zombie. Most zombies just avoid me. Don't know why. As Izuku just says this. I'm guessing it's because of your look. As she says this. What do you mean? Izuku sees that this zombie seems to be different. This zombie, instead of having the typical green skin, has a lighter shade of that green skin. Her eyes are a bit different as well. Instead of being like hollow or completely bloodshot or other things that zombies are known for, like their bloodshot eyes or things like that. Instead, her eyes are completely like normal. Or at least in the standards of like a human at least. Her eyes are just like normal human eyes. And her body. Her body's, well, most zombies have like rotting flesh, or their bones are showing, or something like that. Instead, her skin is completely intact. I mean, there's still a few bite marks and also a bit of scratching, like several like scratches of, like along her body, but still, normal. As Izuku just says this. Are you sure you're a zombie, or just, as she says this. I'm sure I'm a zombie. Like, seriously. I got stabbed by a monster one time, and I survived. As Izuku just says this. Right. As she says this. So what are you doing here? As Izuku just says this. Well, I'm currently trying to find... As she says this. Currently are you trying to find the treasure? as Izuku just says this. Treasure? As she says, yeah, there's supposedly a treasure here, but I couldn't find it. As Izuku just says this. Treasure? Can you please speak a bit more of this treasure? As she says this. Yeah, apparently it's over here. As she brings Izuku to the first room that, well, was in the temple. As she says this. Supposedly the treasure's over here in the symbol. As Izuku just says this. This symbol. As Izuku just knocks on the, well, thing, being the floor. As Izuku knocks on it, it sounds hollow. Like there's a room there. As Izuku knocks on the other walls, as they were not hollow. As Izuku knocks on the floor again, where that symbol is, as it's hollow. As Izuku decides to do this. Hey, Olga. As she says this. Yeah, Izuku? As Izuku just says this. Back away. As she says this. Okay. As Izuku grabs his pickaxe and starts mining and breaking the floor, causing it to fall down. As Izuku, but not taking damage all that much, but thanks to Izuku's quick thinking, Izuku uses his pickaxe to break his fall by stabbing it into the wall and making his fall, well, a bit slower. As Izuku jumps off, as Izuku sees a room filled with 4 chests. As Izuku sees a pressure plate, which Izuku decides to break. As when Izuku broke it, Izuku sees dynamite. As Izuku decides to, well, bring this dynamite because it might be in use for later. It's a surprise tool to help us later. Anyway, after Izuku loots all of the chests, which were filled with several different types of items, including one which interested him for 1 second. Izuku saw a large-looking orb. As when Izuku checked the name of this item was called the Heart of the Sea. Izuku thought it was a pretty weird item, so Izuku decides to keep it. So, after grabbing some blocks, Izuku started climbing up as he came back to the surface, as Izuku says this to Olga. Hey Olga, are you alone? As she says this. Well, yeah, most mobs won't, as Izuku just says this. Mobs? As she says this. Oh, mobs are, well, monsters like me. As Izuku just says this. How about this, Olga? How about you decide to join with me? After all, I don't really have any people left. As she says this. Really? I can join? As Izuku just says this. Yeah, sure. I really need some company at least. I mean, I might go insane or something. As she says this. Thank you. Nobody ever said that to me. Or even let me join them. Most people just left me to die or something like that. But I can't die. After all, I am a zombie. As Izuku just says this. Okay, anyway, let's just start going. As she says this. Right. As Izuku brings her on another, adventure. As they move on, getting out of the temple, as they started going through the desert together. And so, this is going to be the end of this episode. So, before you guys leave, apparently all of you wanted a, harem. And so, guys, if you want to comment down below on what, names for, these brand new characters to be, in this series, just comment down below. For example, Izuku should be shipped with, one of the harem members, a skeleton named something something. Just comment down below because I don't have any ideas for the names or the, type of mob that I should, animeify or something like that. So, yeah. So, just pick in the comments, okay? Good. So, I hope you liked the video. Comment, subscribe, and like the video so you can support my channel. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!